I am pretty much a connoisseur of porta toilets. I mean, I know them inside out. I know one thing, for example, is that there is not a lot of seams or other places, and so I thought I had fairly, long odds to find a ledge or a place that would be a suitable hiding place.
Bill and I met at a dinner, and we sat next to each other, and for some reason we started talking about odd jobs and who had the most odd jobs, and he claimed he had the most odd jobs and I claimed I did, and even though he's 40% maybe older than I am, we just went 1 for 1 until I won. And then I got an email from him like 2 days later where he thought of 5 or 6 additional odd jobs to put him over the top as the winner.
I just hate to lose something, I think.
That morning, I went for a bike ride and I cut back mid-ride to hit the Starbucks to meet with him. So I'm in my full bike outfit and he's in his lawyering outfit, like a jacket and button down. And he starts telling me a story about pocket knives that seems to have no relationship to anything that we were talking about or have ever talked about.
2 years ago, maybe, I just got tired of, we have this place out in the country, of not having a good sharp knife for steaks, and I had this crazy idea. I said, well, you could probably go on eBay and find really cheap pocket knives. And I got just like a bucket full of pocket knives. So one weekend, I just started buying lots of pocket knives, and I got this pocket knife called a CANOE, which is in the shape of a canoe, and that's a particular kind of pocket knife style. And this is not a really expensive pocket knife, it's a really good pocket knife made by the Frost Company, and the big blade has an engraving of an Indian and his Indian friend and a canoe going down the river, and that's engraved into the big blade, and the knife itself is kind of in the shape of a canoe, and it's solid and pretty heavy and nice. And so I'd been carrying this knife around for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I lost it.
So he's telling me how it would normally be a tragic story, that he'd be pretty bummed out that he lost this special canoe knife, of which I've now heard like the lineage and the eBay purchasing history, and for $20 and on, and then, but because of his new attitude, he's turning it into a positive because it's come up with this great story and it's given us a chance to have this great conversation or maybe monologue.
So the story is about losing something and then trying to get it back.
It was all leading up to this one pocket knife being very special to him, and then how he went to the Braves game, didn't realize it was in his pocket, had to leave to find a hiding spot in the parking lot for the knife.
I could have gone all the way over to the old Atlanta Stadium where there's a wall there, maybe, and right in the crack, but that was quite a hike. And then I noticed the porta johnies, the portable toilets, and there was a cute little cluster of 4 of them there just across, and it's pretty private. You go in there, you got it to yourself. So I thought, well, I'll go in there and see if there's a ledge or some place to hide my pocket knife in there. But then I noticed that behind the working end, the seated part, there was a pipe coming up, I guess ventilating, and there was room behind the pipe, and the pipe was part of a built-in piece that had a ledge, and so I reached behind it, and sure enough, there was a ledge there right behind the pipe. You couldn't see it, so it was wide enough for my knife. So I reached around it, and I put my knife on a ledge behind the pipe. So if this beer bottle is like the pipe, I reached around and put it right behind it. You couldn't see it. It was well hidden. Resourcefulness prevails once again, and not that it's me against the man, but I felt like the man did not get my pocket knife, and I thought I had a solution.
And then the tragedy of it falling, when he went to retrieve it from the porta potty.
I get the door open, and when I reached behind the pipe and felt the knife, I was so happy to feel the knife that I was going to push it with this hand over to that hand, And what I did was I didn't have a good handle on it, and it went down the hole. It went down that crack, and I heard it make a thump like 2 or 3 feet down below.
That it fell in this crack, and he felt it was lost forever.
I tried to get my hand down there. My hand would not go down in there. And so the knife was just lost. And I was, to say deflated, to say I was deflated would be an understatement. I was very deflated. But, you know, I'm becoming more stoic about life. These little things help. You know, what does not kill you makes you stronger. So I said, you know, I'm just not going to, that was a great knife. It had some kind of an interesting story before I got it. I only enjoyed it for a couple of weeks, but now it's going to have this new life. So I didn't forget about it. I mean, it was still a little bit painful, but it was a bruise and not a frank laceration. Yeah, the next day I get up, I'm not even really thinking about it much, other than thinking about the fact that I've got a pretty good little story to tell about the knife, and the knife will have a pretty good little story to tell when it makes its way, canoes its way to the end of the journey. And so I have breakfast with my friend Jennifer Schwartz, and I said, you won't believe this story. And so I started telling her the knife story. The idea occurred to me that a few months earlier, maybe a year earlier, I had lost something, and I had gone out and down a crack. It was a tool, and I had gone out and bought a really powerful, small,
a really big
magnet like contractors use to recover things for just this kind of thing. And I had some nylon cord, and I thought there was a chance. I knew the Nationals had another game, and there was a chance that maybe that same porta-toilet was still there, and my knife could still be down in that crack, and maybe with the cord and the magnet I could retrieve it.
So we come up with this plan that we will both leave Starbucks, me on my bike, he'll in his car go to his house, pick up the magnet and the rope, we'll rendezvous at Turner Field in front of the porta potty and try to retrieve the knife.
Thank God it wasn't a wooden knife, huh?
Okay.
There's this great samurai movie where the key element is that not only does this guy's son-in-law commit harikiri, he does it because he's so poor that he doesn't have a real sword. He does it with like a bamboo. He commits harikiri with a bamboo sword. So don't laugh about the wooden knife thing. Those exist, you know.
I pull up on my bike. He pulls up in his car and parks on the curb. And he comes out holding this orange rope and this circular magnet, and we go into the porta potty, and because it's a door that like goes closed automatically, so it slams closed. We're both in this porta potty, and he's saying, do you think we should both be in here together? And I was like, Bill, I don't think there's any explanation other than the really strange truth that would make any sense. You know, I'm wearing a full bike outfit. I think possibly my helmet's still on. He's, you know, looks like he's dressed for work. We're holding a magnet and an orange rope. It's just too weird.
It's kind of like fishing. If you've ever been fishing, you know, you're frustrated, you know the fish are in there, you know you've got the bait, you know that everything is the line, but you still don't have a fish. And so then there was that moment where I said, well, we're going to try one more time, and then I felt something. I felt that. I felt it go. I felt it, and you could hear it, and I could feel it with the string. And then I thought, oh my goodness.
And he's like, no sudden movements, and we're slowly, so excited, but you know, worried that it's going to drop.
I'm getting it right to where I know it's there, and now I've lost this thing to that to that crevasse before. So now I've got to reach around the pipe, and I grab it so carefully, and I pull it out, and voila! We have liftoff. We have success. I have my rescue is complete. You know, something that should not have happened. I should not have recovered this has happened, and I now have my knife back. And
we pull it up. We're rejoicing. We jump out of the porta potty, and there are two security officers standing out there, one looking sort of amused and the other looking not amused at all.
And in the excitement, I kind of forgot how weird it might be that a girl on a bicycle and a guy parking illegally on the sidewalk have gone in together and have been hanging out for at least a few minutes in this porta toilet. And so I realized that this is one of those things that you're just never going to be able to explain. And pretty much immediately there's the security guard, and I've got my paraphernalia. I think I have my knife as well. And so I've got a story to tell. I've got exhibits. So, you know, that adds some credence right away. And I start telling the story as outlandish as it sounds. I was at the Braves game. I had my pocket knife. It was a good knife. I didn't want to lose it. The security guard wouldn't let me through. So I hid it in the porta toilet. It fell down the crack. I came back with this magnet this morning. I'm talking pretty fast because it's a pretty involved story. And she seems to be getting it, but at the same time she's upset. And she said, "Why'd you have to park on the..." She's called obviously she's called headquarters, you know, HQ's probably called Homeland Security, I don't know, you know. But I convince her, I don't convince her really. I'm just walking to my car and she's not armed, and I noticed that right away. She does not appear to have arrest powers. So I'm being very nice, I'm telling her the story, I'm giving her the context. So I felt like I didn't really think much more about it. As far as I know, it all has worked out. I've got my knife.
Bill scoots into his car and takes off, and the woman in the little golf cart asked me what we were doing, and I said we were retrieving a pocket knife from the porta potty using a rope and a magnet, and she kind of looks at me like I'm crazy but rolls on. And the nicer woman, I guess, had just gotten in a lot of trouble because, so for the supervisor, she had yelled at the other woman because it was mostly that this car was unmanned and on the curb, and she said, "I turned around and there was no car, and then I turned back around and there was a car on the curb." And she said, "So I thought this person must have been at the ticket office, and I looked over and there was no one at the ticket office, and then I never would have thought to look in the porta, and then the two of you come out of the porta together. I mean, I never." And she just was going on and on. We had a good laugh and I biked away. Success story.
One weekend I just started buying lots of pocket knives.